Welcome to Spaghetti on the Wall, where we throw ideas, see what sticks, and nurture those that do. I'm your host, Armando Leduc, an actor, entrepreneur, and coach, giving you insights that light up your world. We're here to explore the realms of business, marketing, and life, serving up a shot of inspiration with every episode. Ready to make ideas stick and grow them into something great? Let's dive in. Boom, baby. What's up, man?
Excited to be here. Let's go.
Heck yeah, let's go. So I'm in Miami. Where are you at right now?
I am in Marion, Illinois. So
Right
Southern
on.
Illinois. Yep.
So much fun. So much fun. So I've heard about you through the grapevine. We've been working with attorneys for the last 4 years. I know you're an expert in the field, and we're specifically talking about niching down. So before we get into all of that, just kind of give me a 2-minute background on how you got to where you got, and then we can roll from there.
Yeah, I'll give you the quick and dirty. So I've always been an entrepreneur and knew I wanted to own my own business. My uncle was very successful, had, several exits. So I kind of knew he raised my ceiling on what was possible. And went to college. I was a partier, not the best student. Somehow I ended up with a history education degree. Thought I was going to be a college basketball coach. I was really involved in sports. My first year, I was doing a detention room, managing that. That was a lot of fun. But I found this course, How to Make Money Online. It was Ed Dale's 30-day challenge. And by the end of my second year teaching, I was making, 4 times the amount that I was teaching. And so I pursued digital marketing. And in 2013, started attorney rankings. Now it's just rankings. But yeah, kind of went off. Yeah, so I did the affiliate marketing stuff for several years before starting the agency.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love this whole concept of niching down, and I fought it. I fought it for the longest time. It was November of last year when I said, guys, we're going to focus on the legal industry. We're going to stop with the restaurants. We're going to stop with the car dealerships. We're going to stop just all over the place. We're just going to go into the legal space. And we grew 1,287% in like 60 days. It was insane. It was insane.
Amazing. Congrats.
Thank you. So yeah. So now, now we're on that kick. Now I'm preaching it from the rooftops to anybody that'll listen. Tell me about when you had that epiphany and why and when you started niching down and how that affected your business.
So out of the gate, I started with legal. My thought process on this was I was undercapitalized and had to be very specific in who I was hunting or who I was targeting. And so I started with legal out of the gate. Let me take a step back, though. When I did the affiliate marketing stuff, I had like 100 sites, but really only 3 sites produced any revenue. And like looking back, if I would have just focused on one of them, it would have been significantly different. I would have made a lot more money, been more successful, but I thought that I could replicate it easily. And, as well as I do, there's a lot of efficiencies when you do the same thing and you start to become better. You get the reps in. It's like the guy that watches the YouTube video on how to shoot a 3-pointer versus shooting 10,000 3-pointers, right? It's, so out of the gate, I niched, but I think the difference is I went a level deeper into PI. So that was about 6 years in. Just numbers wise, 70% of my revenue was PI. So it was like a clear push to go that direction anyway. When we look at legal, especially from a marketing standpoint, PI want to advertise. I mean, you drive in a city, you see the billboards, you see them on TV, or you hear them on the radio. And other areas of law, different demo. Maybe they aren't as motivated to grow their firm. Maybe they want more of a lifestyle business. And so it just kind of pushed me into the PI direction. And it's really worked well. It's allowed me to move upstream and create different relationships. So I went a step further and really niched into PI.
That's amazing. Are you telling the attorneys that they should niche down as well?
Interesting. Yes, more now than ever, right? When there's competition in a space, a lot of times, some things can happen if you don't have a clear differentiator, right? If you just niche into PI, that's not really a clear differentiator. And look, there's years of experience and this and that, but from the consumer's perspective, that isn't a way to stand out.
Right.
You need to have different messaging, different branding. There's a lot of different tactics to do it, to be memorable, because that's all we're ultimately trying to be, is be distinctive in the market. I think personally now more than ever that there are some underserved areas like dog bites, like elder abuse. Some of these areas are more positioned to be successful in the future. You take elder abuse. You got Smith Klein Smith in like 18 states. You've got some really good firms out there, but there's not a ton. And compare it to auto. I mean,
Yeah.
you can throw a rock and hit a PI attorney focusing on auto. It's easier, right? And people have kind of deconstructed it, and
Yeah.
but a lot of times we need to do the hard things to really stand out and make an impact.
Well, and the reason I asked you is because I'm not going to name names, but I had a client who had 17 different practices, right? From nonprofit to bankruptcy to business to tax to entertainment to like the whole nine. And was like, Armando, I need you to help me market this. And I was like, no, I can't do it. I can't do it. You've got to pick, right? Let's pick. If it's PI, let's PI. If it's entertainment law, let's do entertainment law. Like, you can't market 17 different practices on one channel, right? You confuse the audience. People don't want to buy unless you have multi-millions of dollars. And even at that point, you still want to, I mean, Coca-Cola talks Coca-Cola. You know what I mean? Like, that's what they've been marketing for the last umpteenth years, right? So that to that point, right? You're saying, why not take the PI and even go further down where you're specifically talking dog bites, where you're specifically talking, elder care and things like that. What are the benefits and what are the drawbacks?
Okay. So first, one thing popped in my head. It's like, and then you see someone that does it successful and everybody follows the leader, right? Joe Freed starts out as a trucking attorney. Now you got a gajillion truck accident lawyers, right? It just takes that first person, because there's a lot of people that don't want to do the hard things. They just want to copy, and they're always behind, right? So what are the pros and cons? So pros of niching is you're perceived as an expert, right? I know you got to be careful the use of superlatives and how you advertise, but you're perceived, right? Just like a brain surgeon versus a generalist doctor is going to be perceived as an expert for brain surgery, but you don't know, that brain surgeon has his first brain surgery, his or her, right? So, pros, if it's in legal, let's just say niching for like criminal defense, you may be able to demand higher fees. Like if you're an expert in DUI law, right? You may be able to charge more on that hourly rate. It's a little bit different on the contingency side. Having said that, the specialization may allow you to extract more value out of the case. You use that trucking example. Maybe they think they can do truck just because they've done car, but they miss, insurance policies, or they're not securing the vehicle from an investigative standpoint. I'm not an attorney. This is just things that I hear, right? So those are some of the benefits that, you can extract more value. We talked a little bit about the efficiencies, right? If you're only doing one area of the law, it becomes repeatable. You start to become more efficient. You can do it more quickly. From a labor perspective, maybe you need less labor. Maybe you can attract labor that specialize in that area of the law. You can become known for it, so it maximizes your marketing dollars. So those are a lot of the pros. The con is the biggest con is you shrink your TAM, right? You have less consumers, right? If you're only going after elder versus anybody that drives a vehicle, it's a lot less of those individuals. The counter is you have targeting, right? You can target demographics and things to get in some of these people, in front of those individuals. But really, the biggest downside is really the smaller TAM. You open yourself up to some risk, right? like in auto, right? Like let's say the Waymos and robo taxis take over when you're only in one area of the law, or you practice maritime law, and for whatever reason nobody gets on cruises and ships anymore. Um, so there's some of that element too. You do open yourself up to risk for a particular vertical if you go all in and on it.
Yeah. So what are you saying to attorneys, these PI attorneys that are in these like crowded markets, right? And they're just trying to figure out how do they differentiate. You know, they're going up against the big boys that are spending God knows how much monthly. What are you saying to these guys to like, hey, this is what we can do. I understand that, you know, this is the problem, but this is how you're going to stand out in the marketplace right now.
Yeah, there's every market's a little bit different, right? It's like even from a television advertising perspective, are they doing the really quick and snappy response style ads? Are they doing more the entertainment, earned media style? Are they doing more the social proof? I'm the best litigator. So you got to look at the market and be different. Let me take a quick drink here.
Yeah.
Could be the colors. A lot of times PI is associated with blue. Like that's the color PI, but you're Amanda Demanda, so you choose pink, right? You embrace the femininity. You do the pink heel, right? Versus the yell at the truck with the sledgehammer. It's I don't know who. It's just so bizarre to me. How many X hammers do we have? How many strong arms do we have? We got A's arm, we got Foy, and then we got the one call that's all that's being leased. It's like, come on, like use some creativity.
They have to buy that, right?
I believe so.
Like it's because you always have a one call that's all in every city, right?
Yeah.
And you have the strong arm of the law, you know, as well.
Yeah. So I think look at your market and think about how you are different, how you are distinctive. You take Arizona, you got the Breyers, the husband and wife law firm. Great differentiator. Totally different. They talk about trust and being family oriented, you know, in their TV commercials. That's different, right? They embrace the husband and wife. So I think every market has the possibility to stand out. It's just the issue is a lot of times attorneys will go in and they want to go channel first before thinking about their creative and how they're going to be distinctive in the market, right? So they'll plow into TV or radio as opposed to thinking like how I'm going to be different or distinctive on that channel in the first place.
Is that what you're helping people with?
You know, be honest, we're more performance. So that's something we want to get better at, right? Is the messaging, the sales copywriting. We do a lot of the SEO and LLM type of, you know, content orient, you know, to be discoverable by these LLMs and search engines. But we do that in our design process, right? We'll create a logo, we'll do some of the copywriting and some of that messaging. But to be honest, we're more on the performance side, the buying of paid digital, the more math orientation.
You started PimCon, right?
Yeah. We had our first inaugural conference last year.
So I'm gonna treat this as a little selfish thing for me because I'm doing my first live event. It's not for attorneys, although attorneys can come to it, but it's more for content creation, right? It's called Content into Clients. I have a mastermind that's it's a Zoom mastermind that happens every Tuesday, and it's going really well. You know, we're going to invite people to the in-person event. It's for networking, but it's also geared towards content creation, right? Like how to be on camera, what you should do, building the brand, personal branding, that whole nine. So when you put it together, what were some of the things that you didn't see coming?
All the mistakes, right? So I'll just talk about some of the challenges, right? The first thing is there's so many legal conferences, so you have to think about how you're going to be different, right? Because why should they go to your party, your conference, as opposed to someone else's, right? See Michael Mogul doing big things with the celebrities, so you're like, should I do the celebrity thing? And you go these other conferences. So the first thing is we went to 29 events and really deconstructed those and took a look at those. And The mistakes were we didn't utilize the space on the first one to maximize our sponsorship dollars. We also could have made the foot traffic just a pinch better to the sponsors. Everyone loved it, but we learned and we've improved upon that. We had an MC that was a lovely person, but didn't really know the legal vertical. So we have a different MC that's really in the legal this year. I think she did a great job, but I think this person will just understand some of the nuances on the introductions and the breaks and how to get people engaged. One thing I didn't think about was I was playing music for me, right? So I'm playing a lot of upbeat, like hip hop stuff, and like maybe our target demo didn't want as much of that, so we got a couple complaints on that. Ticket sales were way harder year one than year two, obviously, but very stressful. So I learned some tactics on creating urgency on the ticket sales because, like, why would someone buy a ticket 5 months away? Like, you have to create some type of urgency.
Like the early bird special.
Mm-hmm. Content. We had a couple issues where we allowed people to switch out their PowerPoints at the last minute, and we should have clamped that down or did another run through. We had one mistake on a PowerPoint. Individual kind of got stunted, but then powered through it because he's an expert. But those are some of the things. Cash flow. I went in the previous year like not intending to do it, and I'm like, let's just do it. So I didn't have any money saved, so I'm just like monthly cash flowing it, and it was, I think we had about 1.6 million in of like, so I had to come up with 1.6 million bucks that I didn't save. Those are some of the things. There's little things like our VIP tickets catered more to the people that drank alcohol and not to the sober individuals. So had some complaints there. We need to think about who's attending this, and those are some of the things that come to mind. But by and large, we powered through it. I think everyone had a wonderful time. I think for all the mistakes that we made, the one thing that we got right last year was the content. We had excellent speakers that spoke from experience about how they were growing their firm. It was authentic. It was different. And I think that really showed, and we're really trying to do that again this year.
When you talk about going all in, right? Because you were like, all right, I'm going to do this thing. You had to get the location first, right?
I had mistakes there too.
What's that?
I had a mistake there too. Let me tell you that story. I thought, let me keep it local to St. Louis, and I can pop over if I need to, right? I'm a couple hours away. So I look at all the potential areas, and there's not really any great locations. First of all, it's a tier 2 city. Look, I know it, right? So it's not a big draw. And I put down $75,000 for the Ameristar Casino, close to the airport. When I went there 4 years ago, it was nice and new. When I went there after I'd put the money down to kind of like do the walkthrough, I'm like, smoke was through the whole place. It wasn't taken care of. And so, you know what? This was late in the game, and I'm like, you know what? Googled top resorts in the country. Number 2 is Venetian. I was like, number 1 didn't have the space. Number 2, I was like, that's what we're doing. So I burned $75,000 just not doing a little extra due diligence on the location.
Damn.
Mm-hmm. You learn, right?
Yeah. Is it always going to be in Vegas?
So it's in Arizona. At the Phoenician again this year. It's a 5-star luxury.
The Phoenician.
Yeah. So there's the Phoenician, and then there's the. Well, I guess they're both Venetian. Yeah. So I think. Well, the big preview is next year we're buying out the whole hotel. We haven't done that before, so that's going to be a different level of stress. But we'll get through it. I'll power through it. But I think after next year, 2026, 2027, we'll probably outgrow the space. So we'll have to look at one that's a little bigger. But I kind of want to keep the atmosphere similar and not be. I like around the 500-600 people. It starts to change from a networking perspective once you get a lot bigger. But we'll see.
Why did you decide to do that?
Well, it's just one of those things. Go like now that it's our second year, we understand how to use the space better. They like us and want us to. They're giving us better deals. We know some of the nuances to maximize the revenue. One of the biggest feedbacks we got from the survey that we did was they love the location. They want it there again. Kind of like, National Trial Lawyers has it over at the Lowe's. Everyone likes that central bar for networking, kind of food around there. But still 2 years in, we've got about 80% of the space, and now this 2026, we're going to get all of it. So
Very cool.
more tickets to sell.
Yeah. And this is going to be a once a year thing?
Yeah. We talked about, because we got 3 media brands. We got the PIM brand. We got Lawher. We got Under Oath as a new one. We're probably going to do a small event for Lawher. A very, maybe 100, 200 people for Lawher. And then we might do some regional events as kind of a build-up, like a run-up to the main event. We talked about doing, West Coast, Midwest, East Coast, maybe smaller, like one-day intensives. But none of that is set in stone yet, but we're considering it.
How big is your team to run an event like that?
We have 2 people on the event team. We have a head of events and another individual, but we work with some strategic partners that are very organized, that were thoroughly vetted. That's on the event side. Now, selling the tickets and the marketing, like we've got people dedicated to that. We got several people that help us with that. But putting it all together, I'm involved. Our salespeople are involved. It's like all hands on deck. I talked to Michael Mogul. It's like, and he's got more event people than me, but the hardest thing about an event, because there's so much competition, is the tickets. You got to get the bodies there. It doesn't matter. So you got to have the draws. You got to have the entertainment, the nice location, a tier 1 location. It's got to be a time that isn't another big conference. And so that's the hardest thing. But we're doing a lot better this year. And because you got to kind of wiggle in your spot.
When is your event?
October 5th through 8th.
Nice. And that's in Phoenix.
In Scottsdale. Yeah. Arizona.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And it's open to all attorneys?
Yeah, I think we have an attorney price and we have a non-attorney price. The biggest thing is it's for attorneys, right? It's like how to grow your practice. And we want to make sure that the vendors also have people that they're catering to. So if you just let a ton of non-attorneys in, it's like the balance shifts, and the people receiving value from the speakers also goes down too. And we don't do any pay to play speaking. Everybody's invited, personal invitations. And, so we had to be really intentional. That was another one. We had about 60% lawyers, 40% non-attorneys. I think this year would be more like 80 to 90 attorneys versus 10 to 20 non-attorneys.
That's cool. And are you what sort of events are you putting on after, like the after hours events?
Yeah. So we'll have a really cool welcome party after registration. We had a cigar roller, some dueling pianos. We may have a drone show. That's kind of up in the air, depending on the weather and if we can secure this. The end of day 1, our big entertainment's Nikki Glazer. So we have her as a comedian. That'd be awesome. And then the end of day 2, there's like an outdoor mixer kind of out at the pool. But there's a lot of little surprises here and there throughout the event. But yeah, so Nikki Glazer's our big draw from the entertainment side.
Tell me about AI and how you think that's. I have my own opinion on it, but like how you think this is affecting masterminds and conferences and people wanting to get together more.
Well, the intimacy component is creating a lot more value, right? So knowledge itself is going to be less and less a unique. It's going to be general intelligence is going to be more accessible, right? So you have to be an expert. I think that's another reason to push the niching. Although even that is going to be access to everyone in the future. So even knowledge and expertise is going to have less value. So it comes down to community, relationships, being belly to belly. Distribution is another kind of moat in that area. But yeah, I think, look, AI, I feel like I've seen these studies on the cognitive lift of individuals in the younger generation. Like everything's just so accessible and you don't have to like kind of cognitive, your cognitive load is a lot less. So I think relationships are going to be more valuable. Yeah.
How is AI affecting your space?
Oh, geez. Right. So a ton of stuff. Like, where do I start? Content, right? Content's cheaper, easier to create. That's super high quality. Same for strategies, significantly easier. You can, upload all kinds of documentations. You can create custom GPTs per client for their nuances on their writing styles. There's some efficiencies there too. But search is changing. A lot of the discovery component of LLMs is just good best practices for SEO, good technical SEO schema, linking from prominent sources. There are some nuances that is a little bit different that most SEOs historically didn't put as much attention towards, like, getting listed in Wikipedia and some of these directories like Super Lawyers and Best Lawyers have more value than they did in the past. But I mean, it's a significant shift. Really, everything's pushing more to omni-channel. Just because it's so fragmented and buyer behavior's changed.
Do you think that as AI becomes more prevalent, it kind of loses its sort of novelty and luster, right? If everybody has access to it, then what's the value of it, right? Like if it's easy to write 50 blogs, right, in seconds, then what's the differentiator there?
Well, I mean, you're right. So you want to be different. By the nature of being different, you automatically stand out. So that's a big one. A lot of it will come down to prompt engineering. I know that's been like one of the phrases that people talk about, but there really is a lot of skill to properly prompting, giving it instruction that's very clear, understanding how to use each of the different LLMs to their best advantage. Right now, I'd say, Claude and ChatGPT are the clear leaders, but there's a use for Grok, there's a use for Gemini and Notebook LLM. But yeah, it's such a tough question to answer, because anytime that I say, creativity and art, that's where everything's going to lie. And then you see like the VEO3 and some of the things it's doing. So I really don't know. The only thing that I'm thinking about is the community and media distribution side. More so than even the expertise component, to be honest.
Go elaborate. What do you mean?
Well, I mean, just like what you said, like everybody's constantly uploading, and ChatGPT and the intelligence is getting significantly better, right? It's already the top X% passing all these tests. from a consultative perspective, it's already the top of the top, right? So where does my value as a digital marketer come into play? Right now, it's still there, and I can be discerning and scrutinize it, right? In the future, as ChatGPT 5 and these different versions come out, it's already in the top 1%, right? So where am I going to have my moat? And I think it comes back to community, personal relationships from trust, right? I think in-person sales conversations, visiting the firm's office, attending more in-person events. And then I just think the distribution component, right? So it is going to be easier to create content and social and video and all the things, but you still have to create it in a manner that collects an audience, that really caters to being able to target interests and behavior. So I think some of that takes time. I think the cost to acquire subscribers and followers is going to increase. So right now, I think the two is going to be the belly to belly networking and then on the distribution. But I could totally be wrong. And we'll see how long that plays into things. But a lot of stuff changing. And we just got to do the hard things and shift.
Where do you think the opportunity is here in the next 5 years? Not necessarily in digital marketing, but just in general, like what verticals and industries, and maybe this is a question for ChatGPT, but maybe you got your eye on it.
Oh, what's some stuff that just comes to mind? Well, I mean, I don't want to get political, but with the bill, and I'm definitely staying on that, right? We're going to be printing a lot more money, so hard assets are going to be more valuable. I'm a big real estate investor. I don't anticipate those going down in value. I anticipate those going up significantly. We'll have to see what happens with the robo taxis and how that plays out with Waymo versus Tesla. Tesla right now is trading about half. It's in the 200s or 300s when it was up to 440 or 450. Opportunities, though, I think the biggest one is going to be whoever nails recruiting for trial attorneys and understands the compensation packages and nuances of retaining top talent from a trial lawyer perspective is going to be very valuable. I think some of the data intelligence that the insurance companies have used on Colossus are going to be shifted more favorable on the PI side. We're going to have more of that to utilize to maximize case values. Tort reform is going to be a big one. You got Texas, Georgia just got hit. Florida got hit before that. It's crazy times. There's a lot of consolidation occurring. I think the kind of the small to mid that don't really want to change are going to be in trouble. So those are just top of the dome things, right?
What do you think about Elon talking about universal pay and just people not having to work but still getting paid?
I really don't know how far we are from that, but I think there's definitely something to that. I mean, there's just going to be, I do think there will be a mass exodus of jobs from the labor force. And then you got the Cylon type, robots doing a lot of work, but I don't know. I think I had some of my friends over at the pool this weekend, the 4th, and they're talking about this and that, and they get in this conversation, and I'm like, I don't care. I'm going to do whatever it takes to make more money and be successful. Like, I don't care. Just throw it at me. And so, it just is what it is. I'll just roll with the punches. And I think if people have that attitude versus the poor me, I think they'll be okay.
I think so too. I think throughout history, I mean, well, granted, this is, AI is huge, right? You got the locomotion engine, and then, being able to mass produce things, and, being able to recreate books at scale, all of those moments that just kind of moved everybody to a different spot. And then industry was created from there. So who knows what we don't even know yet, right? I don't even know. It's coming to us fast, obviously, but the opportunities are always there.
Yeah,
So
I couldn't agree more.
you just gotta be there.
Yep. Focus on creating more value. Yeah, there's something to be said too, where there's competition, it demands expertise. And so, experts are paid for their value. I know everyone wants to talk about Peter Thiel, blue ocean, but I'm not Peter Thiel. I'm not Elon, right? I'm not creating freaking a spaceship or Palantir or whatever the hell Peter's involved with now, So most of us are working at a business that's been around, and it's how do we become experts in that space? How do we stand out and be a little different?
Yep. Yeah. Chris, how do people find you, man? And do you work with just attorneys, or do you?
Yeah. Just attorneys, PI, personal injury attorneys. Best way to get in touch with me, questions, you want to shoot the bull, or you didn't agree with what I said, we want to have a, nice little conversation back and forth, email chris@rankings.io, website rankings.io.
That's awesome. Chris, man, I appreciate you being here and spending your time with me.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Heck yeah. And this is brought to you by Leduc Entertainment for all of your production needs, podcasts. You got it. And keep watching, keep listening, and we'll see y'all next time.